This crowd rises to its feet. Vaccaro slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland one of the lane, lob to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. August is almost coming to an end. That means there is very little going on when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that doesn't mean we can't have a good time talking about them anyways. Joining me today is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. I've got a little day trip to New York coming up tomorrow for some meetings. So just getting ready to spend all day in the Big Apple, and then we'll head home before I go to Cedar Point on Wednesday to ride some roller coasters with my family. So big couple days for your boy.
That's awesome, man. How's the weather these days? What's it like in the Ohio region?
Oh, we're right on the precipice of fall, which is really the only really nice time to be in Ohio from a weather perspective, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, you don't like the warmth? Come on, man.
I don't like hot and muggy. I like temperate, low humidity. We've got nice, crispy 70-degree days right now, which is perfect roller coaster weather. So I'm hoping that holds up for me.
It's been a little chilly the last couple of days, which is disappointing with Winnipeg hosting championship weekend and everything. It's going to get warm again, probably for another few weeks. I don't mind the fall. You know, I obviously with my complexion, I'm basically translucent, so I don't do great in the sun. But I prefer the warmth if it's there. Yeah,
that's fair. I just would rather have my cake and eat it too, and have that's like fair. That 70-degree, jeans and a t-shirt weather.
Very, very fair. Well, I did talk about it at the start of the last podcast, so I should probably give people the Sea Bears update.
Everyone's been dying.
Honestly, they're probably just, sitting there holding their breath all week. So let's put them out of the misery, just like the Calgary Surge did to the Winnipeg Sea Bears. Unfortunately, right before the game, it came out that Terry Roberts, of course, as you know, Carter, of the Long Island Nets, he was going to miss the game because he got hurt in warmups. Jalen Harris, our leading scorer, former Raptor great before getting kicked out of the NBA for a drug issue, I believe, was also had his back seized up in the first half and didn't play the second half. Tried to give it a little bit of a go, but just couldn't go. And, the PTSD of that, man, the injuries and the fact that a Jameer Nelson team went radioactive from three, it was just too much for me. So I'm still in a little bit of a foul mood. You don't have to even do the 60 seconds. I'm done. That's all I have to say. They gave it a good shot. Better luck next year.
It just felt like it wasn't the Sea Bears year, Just kind of felt like you guys never really hit your stride. And I know that because you weren't hitting me up that much about them.
No, I really wasn't. Yeah, it was a little bit of a weird season.
Somber year. Sometimes you have a bad year or a weird year. Cavs had one 2 years ago.
And, one of the thing is when you host the championship weekend, you get a bye to the conference finals, which I neglected to mention before this.
Some classic Justin Rowan accounting right there. Go Sea Bears.
I think that has an impact on your season-long focus. But, better luck next year. I'm already on to the Cavs. I went to the championship game anyways. Congratulations to the Niagara River Lions. Really fun championship game, but I was fully sporting Cavs gear at that point.
Is every CEBL team just a variant, an animal with like a body of water in front of it?
Not
the lake
quite.
trout.
Not quite. Like we've got the Surge, we got the Bandits, we've got a couple other ones, but the seafaring ones, have pretty good juju going with them.
That's fair. Well, shouts to them. You transferred some Cavs juju to them in all the wrong ways.
Yeah. And I'm not going to do the Bill Simmons thing where I talk about, my fandom being cursed and that, because we've had a good amount of Winnipeg winning lately, so I'm not going to pretend that doesn't exist. But, the PTSD is certainly still there. But
can I say real quick, I don't know if you saw ESPN came up with like a misery index.
I missed that. No, I've been a little tapped out of the national coverage, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, they have something on their website where you can like plug in your sports fandoms and it'll tell you how like hard your life is.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I hated it as a concept. It's just like the worst instincts of every fan to talk about, oh, you think you got it bad. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. Horrible. I don't agree. Don't do that.
Well, absolutely not. And you know what? Who cares about the history? Because we are still in the middle of a Cavs renaissance. It is one of the most fun eras that we've had to cover in our time talking about the Cavs. I'm really excited for next season. You know, it's just around the corner now. Before we get into the topic, which thank you very much for coming up with the topic for today, Carter. It was really helpful because, as I mentioned at the top, not a lot going on. I did find it interesting. Mike Scotto, real, great reporter. Sometimes will hit us up and comment on the podcast. So some occasional listener of the podcast, Mike Scotto, mentioned that the Cavs were one of the teams that checked in on Malik Beasley. Now, checked in is obviously very loose language, due diligence, all that sort of thing. But the two teams he mentioned were the Cavs and the Knicks. And I just want to get your thoughts on that because, obviously we expect the Cavs to fill out one more roster spot. Would Malik Beasley be an option that you're interested in?
I think the answer has to be yes. He's probably the most talented free agent left on the market, though. I suppose your mileage may vary with Malcolm Brogdon. And again, I'm not counting out Horford because I think he's just waiting for the Kuminga thing to resolve itself. Sure. I certainly would explore it. Obviously, there's some baggage there with the news stories surrounding, and you have to be a little angsty about that. There's also he's probably, he's actually not even probably. He's certainly at the threshold of player good enough that you kind of have to put him in the rotation. Mm-hmm. And there would be some real spillovers of that where it's like, you probably don't want to play Sam Merrill and Malik Beasley in your rotation, you kind of have the same job. So do you make that move knowing you've kind of have to pick between the two of them? Does someone like Beasley even want to come here if it's going to be between him and the beloved guy who's been here a couple years who got paid to do the same thing this summer? I'm pretty dubious this one would come to fruition, but at the end of the day, I think the GM's job is to get as much talent on the team as possible. Coaching staff's job is to figure out how to make it work together on the court and in the locker room. And I don't think it's impossible that's something Kobe would and Mike Gansey and co would ask if there was mutual interest.
Yeah, it certainly would be a talent play, right? This is someone who finished third in Sixth Man of the Year voting last year, 16 points per game. As you mentioned, I think there's a lot of redundancies between he and Sam Merrill. I think it would be very difficult to play both of them in the lineup. Maybe there's an opportunity when Darius is out or if Lonzo's missing some time that, hey, we're just going with less playmakers and more shooting on the court. But it gets back to some of those concerns that we had about when Ty Jerome was here, right? And you're playing a lot of smaller 3-guard lineups. I think we like that the team is able to play with a little bit more size. So I have concerns on that front. And also the human element that you mentioned, right? Sam did just get an extension with the Cavs. He has been someone that's bought in that we know works really well in the system. But Malik Beasley's probably, in a vacuum, the more talented player, right?
Yeah,
he definitely was deserving of that Sixth Man of the Year. I don't think that's someone that, in normal circumstances would have been available to them. So from a talent play standpoint and, maybe opening up future moves, I would totally understand it. Part of me also is thinking, hey, I would love to block the Knicks from being able to sign him because I think that would be, no disrespect to Yabusele, but I think that would be their best addition of the offseason just from a pure talent standpoint. So,
and it would do that's a team that really struggles with volume from three. And I'd like not to, I would definitely, I'm not shaking in my boots. It wouldn't change how I'd feel about a prospective series or anything like that. Cause again, I don't think Beasley is a 16-game player most of the time. The more important he is to your team, the less likely you are to go where you want to go. It's kind of what I feel about him as a playoff player. But for either the Cavs or the Knicks, he would be their 8th or 9th man, and that's a nice luxury to have.
Yeah, totally agree. So I agree with your sentiment. I think he'd probably pick a different team. If the market is minimum contract, I think go to the opportunity where you have the best chance to play to get the most possible minutes. I don't think the Cavs are that. But I certainly would be interested in that. Very surprised, but I would definitely be interested in that. But, moving on from the little bit of news that involved the Cavs, Carter, I really like this idea. I had a little bit of trepidation on the front end. You want to go over our 5 hot takes or spicy takes, going from mild, warmer, hot, and all the way to the bomb. And that is how you labeled it. And when you pitch me this, I was sitting there and I'm like, I don't really like doing hot takes.
I know you don't.
I don't want to do something that, or say something that I don't fully believe. But I was fighting that temptation. Sometimes, you make me a better podcast host. You make me a better podcaster by pushing me out of my comfort zone. I said, you know what? Rather than pushing back, let's embrace this. Let's find 5 takes that I haven't given yet this season that I actually believe that are, ranging from mild all the way to spicy. So I think this is a fun concept.
If I was a real producer, I would have gotten us some spicy food to work our way up through while we did this. But it's August, man.
It's August.
Maybe we'll run that back.
It's August. The players are working on their games. They're trying to round out their games and do things that they're not me the most comfortable with. Let's do the same. Kick it off, Carter. What is your mild take about the Cavs heading into next season?
Yeah, well, I think I should probably describe what I mean by mild, because some of these things I think are like more surprising early than they would, than the later ones. But I think in terms of their impact to like what they mean to the season, I think that's kind of was my Scoville. Okay. Not Schofield. That's the main character from Prison Break. It's my Scoville ranking. So my mildest take, just my gentle, a gentle wing that just a little spice in the tip of your tongue. Tyrese Proctor will get more on-court opportunities this season than Jalen Tyson.
If that's where you're starting on from a spice standpoint, that to me is a spicy meatball. That is a spicy meatball because Jalen Tyson has been getting a fair amount of buzz. It sounds like the workouts have been going really well. Kenny Atkinson compared him to Karis LeVert in terms of his ability to impact the game, and maybe that's going to be the direction we see this season. So for you to go to a second round pick, which we know, probably in a vacuum, his talent level was higher than his draft position. Really, you think he's going to get more on-court opportunities? Is that just because there's less of a glut, more opportunity at the guard position? What is it?
So I think it's a couple things. I think the fact that I think we're going to have more depth issues at the guard spot.
Okay.
I think it's more likely that, we already know Darius is possibly going to miss some time to start the beginning of the year. We already know that Lonzo has a bit of a checkered injury history himself, to say the least. We know that team's been pretty fine playing Donovan as their backup 1, and that just invariably opens up some minutes at the 2. And I think both of us don't really fancy Jalen Tyson as a 2. We think he's more of a 3-4. And I think, despite the fact that, I think we've been a little bit hard on Dean this summer, in terms of he just didn't have a great postseason. I still think Dean's just going to play a bunch of minutes in the rotation because he's a helpful player who does the right thing, who doesn't mess up, who is well liked in the locker room. And so you have those Dean minutes. You have the addition of Larry, who I think is going to play and play a decent amount. Then you have DeAndre Hunter and Max Strus now splitting, pretty much 48 minutes at the 3 and then some.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the opportunities for Jalen aren't going to be there unless he goes and just yanks them away. I think it's going to be easier for minutes, and that's why I don't think it's that spicy. Because I'm not saying either guy is going to be in the rotation. I'm saying that more minutes might fall to Proctor because of his archetype as a player.
Okay. I understand your argument. I'm not going to give my full rebuttal right now because it ties into my warm tape. So I'm going to save that a little bit. Here's my mild take. And you know, being the mild take, I thought this is where I could be the most fence city with you know, my take in general. But I think the Cavs will make some changes to their regular season approach compared to the previous year. I think we're going to see a little more variety in terms of their defensive schemes, more tinkering throughout the season, and less of kind of a base offense and defense approach. I thought a lot of last season, they didn't really tailor what they were doing to the opponent a whole lot. We noticed when they got into the Miami series, oh, they're doing full court press for the first time really this season. Oh, they're doing some different things that we didn't see that they kind of kept in their back pocket. I think we're going to see a little bit of tinkering, a little bit of experimentation from Kenny throughout the season, because Kenny is someone that, you know, when you listen to him talk, he's always very transparent, right? Like he's trying to learn from every single experience. And I just have kind of this gut feeling that one of his takeaways from next season or the past season was that, hey, you know, let's better prepare for the postseason by doing some more tinkering throughout the season. Let's try different coverages. Let's try different approaches offensively. So that is my mild take for next season.
I think that's a very reasonable mild take. And like but I am kind of curious if you're going to be right. Part of me wonders if that, like, because I agree with you that I would like to see them do that, and a part of me is like, I wonder if that's a little bit of wishful thinking. And you know, I always say this, but like we are going to learn really quickly whether this team, you know, what they took away from that loss. Because if their main takeaway is we were just hurt and we would have been fine, they're probably not going to change that much about their approach. They won 64 games, got hurt, lost to the team that you know was a snapped Achilles away from an NBA title, maybe. Like, yeah. So, you know,
but here's the thing. So I don't think that was their main takeaway, because after the season, what did you hear? No injuries,
mental toughness.
It wasn't mental tough. It was mental toughness. We need to execute better. We need to improve. We have room to grow. We could have won even with the injuries, right? Like that was kind of the refrain. So, you know, I think your, you know, curiosity of whether or not it's wishful thinking, that's in the back of my mind too. But I just kind of have this gut feeling that is going to be something that we do see change go into next season. But you're right. I think that is going to be, you know, when we're looking for things to talk about in the regular season, that is going to be something to focus on for sure. And, you know, maybe not massive tinkering from a week to week approach, but a couple times a month, you know, but once they get comfortable in the season and, you know, what they are trying to establish has been established in November and December. Yeah, let's see if that tinkering comes in January, February. Let's see if Kenny, you know, comments on what he anticipates the approach is going to be.
Absolutely. Would you like to move to your warm take, or should I jump in?
I'm going to go to the warm take because it's a little bit of a rebuttal to your mild take. I think the successor for the Levert/Jerome role from last season is not going to come from Lonzo Ball. I think it's going to come from somebody else. Maybe a Jalen Tyson, maybe a Tyrese Proctor, maybe even a Max Strus. I think that, you know, Tyson is probably my guess to occupy this role. And while you're right that there's
Ty Jerome role,
the Ty Jerome / Karis LeVert type role.
Oh, like the second unit ball handler creator.
Yeah, even if you're not, you know, the primary ball handler with that unit, you're going to take on a decent amount of initiation within that unit, right? Like I think that would be the accurate description for Karis LeVert. And even Ty Jerome, it wasn't like he was a big playmaker out there. A lot of the time Donovan was taking on those playmaking responsibilities and he was out there play finishing. My guess is it's going to be Jalen Tyson. And you're correct that I think there is going to be more opportunities available at the guard position, right? Darius is going to miss some time. We know Donovan's going to miss time. Lonzo's going to miss time. But I kind of anticipate Kenny, you know, using Sam Merrill, using Max Strus there. We're going to play a little bit bigger. So even if Jalen Tyson is playing at the 3, along with, you know, a spacing guard at the shooting guard position, I still see him initiating a good amount of that offense, even if it is alongside of Donovan Mitchell. So I think someone else is going to occupy that role. And Lonzo Ball is kind of almost going to be a little Okoro-y in terms of what his contribution is going to be. I think it's going to be a lot of off ball. Obviously, he's going to bring way more playmaking to the position than Okoro did. but I think he's kind of going to be a little bit of that wing stopper, a connecting piece, somebody that just kind of fits in rather than is a real kind of driving force of the offense. So that's my prediction. And some of that is based on availability, right? Like I think Lonzo's going to miss so much time that someone like a Jalen Tyson is going to get the opportunity to let their wings kind of stretch out a bit here.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I don't know if I agree with the where it's going to come from. I think it's going to need to come from Evan Mobley. I know, guys, you're sick of hearing it. And I also think it's going to need to come from DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter did not initiate a ton of offense last year for the Cavs.
Yeah.
He was really
I think he's going to be the leading bench scorer. Like I think he's going to take the tie scoring, but I'm almost thinking of it as more the LeVert role than even the Jerome role, right? Because
I kind of just think that role's going to go away is kind of where I'm at. Like, I just think they're not. I think what they've kind of agreed to do with their roster is say, hey, we're going to find our offense in different ways. We're not just going to always have an initiator who runs a pick and roll with one of the bigs, gets into the paint, and does a kick out. Like, I think they've kind of, and if that is their plan, I think they're probably worse. Their roster is not as well equipped to do that as they were with a Ty Jerome or a Karis LeVert. So, like, to me, like, while I think there will be stretches where that's true, and there will be moments where if they do need that, a guy like Jalen Tyson would be pretty well equipped to do that. And I don't think Lonzo is equipped to do that. So I think you're spot on with that. Again, he was a very much three-point line player. He was not a get into the teeth of the defense guy on offense last year. I just think they have generally decided that's not who we are anymore. And we don't actually think that scales that well in the postseason. That's what I think they're saying. We won't know until we get there, but like that. So that's my only pushback on that pushback, which is that
it's it's perfectly fair pushback. It's the reason why it's 5 spicy takes, not 5 reasonable and agreeable takes.
Absolutely.
Right? There's going to be disagreements when it comes to these. I think that there is going to be, someone stepping up into that role. I think of it more.
They might need it. I might be wrong.
I think of it more as the Karis LeVert role. And even though I agree that Evan Mobley is going to take on larger usage, I do think one of the main takeaways when you look at champions for the last couple of years is having a lot of guys initiating, having a lot of guys that are able to create for themselves and others. And I think Jalen Tyson fits into that Swiss Army knife mold more than, any of the other kind of options within there.
I think that's a very, very fair thing. My warm take, which probably isn't that warm to anyone who listens to this podcast, Larry Nance Jr. will be the best off-season addition for the Cavaliers. So obviously Lonzo Ball comes in, and I would say the ceiling is probably higher with Lonzo as a player, a more consistent, high-end impact on the rosters he's played on. But I don't know, man. I just think there's a little bit something to that stretch 4 that if that jumper stays as real as Larry clearly thinks it is, as last year showed, all those connecting pieces are going to just really change this team's dynamic when he's on the floor. Your thoughts?
My thoughts is this just downgraded your previous take even more. It is even like that is now milk from a spice level, because Tyrese Proctor is a new addition. So if a new addition comes in and takes a larger on-court role than Jalen Tyson, I would say, hey, that's a really great addition. That's someone that's making an impact here. It is now a even more lukewarm take because if Larry is coming in and he is the best addition, obviously that downgrades the significance of that. So I think there's a decent chance that this one is correct. I think a lot of it hinges on health, right? Like if Larry is healthy enough to gives you 60, 65 games and you're kind of managing his load throughout the season, I think that there's a very, very good chance that this comes to fruition, because I do think what he brings to the table is something that they really needed. I think it's also gives them a lot of kind of unique options when you're going to that small ball lineup with him at the 5. There's just a lot of variety now in Kenny's tool belt in terms of what he can do from a rotation standpoint. And I know I've mentioned this before. I think one of the biggest impacts Larry is going to have is as a coach on the bench in Evan Mobley's ear, because so much of what we want Evan to add to his game that he doesn't prominently show already is stuff that Larry is so proficient at, that Larry is going to be able to point things out to him even in film sessions and things like that. I'm really, really excited for what his addition means to this team.
Yeah, me too. And again, I just think it was it remains a little under the radar. If I may undercut my own argument, Larry is getting a little older. He turns 33 this year. And, there is certainly room for there to be enough slippage that he's more of a depth piece than a regular rotation guy. But right now, I expect him to be, if you've got your starting five from last year, you've got Hunter, you've got Lonzo, you've got Sam. I think he's going to be right in that 8-9 in the rotation ahead of someone like Dean, who is younger, who has been in the rotation in the past in front of a guy like, I think like that really does matter for a guy who came here on the minimum.
Yeah, and Larry has a track record, right? Like he has an established history of being someone that can make a positive impact, and that way he's a lot like Zoom AI Companion, because only you can do your best work, Carter. Zoom AI Companion can help you do the rest, like automatically taking notes, answering meeting questions, and helping you respond to your coworker. Available at no additional cost with eligible paid plans. Work happy with Zoom AI Companion.
Oh yeah, all brother. Right. I'm going to my warmer one. This is where maybe you're starting to grab for the milk. You're considering it, but you're not there yet.
I'm gonna get it ready.
But it's you're feeling the heat now at this point. My warmer. If Evan Mobley isn't considered the best player on the team by the end of the year, the Cavs might have a problem as title contenders.
I don't think this is warm.
You don't think this is warm?
No, this is what we've been saying, man. Like
I think so. I think there's a difference between Evan just uses more and Evan is, roundly understood as the best player on the team.
I don't know if he's ever going to be roundly understood as that, because I don't think he's ever going to be the leading scorer. And I think a lot of people, that's always going to be the thing. The leading scorer is the best player in their eyes. But we've been saying that Evan needs to be the most impactful player for them to win a championship. So maybe that's the distinction. So maybe you're saying that if he's not that, they're not even a title contender. Forget the team that's going to ultimately win the championship.
Kind of is what I'm saying. I'm not sure if he doesn't take that jump that I'm comfortable getting there. Just because of some of these playoff concerns I've talked about this summer. Some of the things where I've seen them not impose their will consistently. Some of these things where the offense gunks up because the guards get a little banged up and then everything starts getting choppy and they can't get into their stuff. Like, I just think like at the highest level, you're gonna run into a team that messes that up, and you have to be like, you have to know in your plums that this is a thing you can do, and you only really do that when you like have kind of collectively like proven that this is the guy you lean on in those moments. Okay.
You've convinced me that there's
a little spicier.
There's a little bit of heat. That was an important clarification to make, because I still believe that they were a contender last season. I think that there is a reality where they could have won a championship if they got some breaks. I do think that the things that were exposed against Indiana, even despite the injuries, were some bad habits that would have came back to bite them. But we've seen teams mature throughout a playoff run, right? Like it's
true.
We've seen it happen even within a series, right? The Cavs in games 1 and 2 of the 2016 finals did not look like a team that was ready to win a championship, and they bounced back in a significant way. So I think what you're saying is probably the more reasonable take, and I think it's closer to consensus too, because I think if people have doubts about whether or not this team is a championship contender, despite how good they've been in the regular season, I'm not going to sit here and fight it, right? Just because I disagree, I also understand that I'm more optimistic by nature, right? And they're going to need to prove a lot of the doubters wrong, and grow up in a serious way. So my warmer take is that come playoff time, I think by the time playoffs roll around, I think one of Kenny's pet pairings and one of the things he leans on, maybe even closes playoff games, are lineups that involve both Max Strus and DeAndre Hunter. So obviously with closing, I think that means that, one of the bigs, more likely Jared Allen than anybody else, would be out of the lineup. I think the pairing of Max Strus and DeAndre Hunter on the perimeter, or even subbing out one of the guards and playing them more time together, I think that is going to be a really, really potent combination for the Cavs. Having two guys that can really shoot the hell out of the basketball, Max's connective playmaking, the way that he makes things easier, for the bigs as well as the guards. I think that is something that the team can really, really lean on. And I'm excited to see more of it. They actually did get a good number of possessions together last season. I just expect to see even more of it, and even potentially closing. Like, I think when the Cavs are trailing, it's going to be both of the guards, Max Strus, DeAndre Hunter, and Evan Mobley. I think that is going to be our most prominent kind of comeback lineup that we see in the season.
I think it's an interesting thought, if not only just because we spend so much time talking about either or with those guys, because we talk about who's going to start, right?
Right.
And I do think you flagging some minutes with them even at the 2-3 and some jumbo lineups is really interesting. Again,
like,
I
imagine
always
those two with Larry and Evan, right?
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. Or Dean, right? Like I think having both Larry and Dean makes it possible that, hey, we're going to lean into this, right? So that's why when with my warm take where I was saying maybe even Strus is going to take a little bit of that, Jerome role, it's playing more as the two and maybe in some of these jumbo lineups.
Yeah, I think it's I'm super into the big lineups. Something I've said a lot on this podcast is that I think this is a team that, while being labeled as, they're one of the only teams that plays big, plays conventional, they're actually kind of positionally small, or have been in the past. And bucking that trend is really, really interesting to me. And I do think finding ways to pair those guys together, on the when you play them at the guards, you kind of have to account for the fact that you're putting one of the guards on the bench. You play them at the 3-4, you have to account for the fact that, man, how we're going to rebound. That's where, by the way, someone like Lonzo, who is an elite guard rebounder in his career, has been really, really good at that kind of stuff. Grabbing and going and cleaning the defensive glass. Like, those kinds of things make those kind of lineups easier. Like, if you're gonna have a not great rebounder at the 4 and DeAndre, you're gonna need to gang rebound. So I think, again, the lineup versatility makes that pairing very prominent, and I kind of think you're on. I don't know how hot the take is in terms of its spiciness, but I do think it's very logical and something that they should be playing with.
Yeah, again, I'm a little out of my comfort zone when it comes to hot takes and stuff like that. I do think, saying that there's going to be a different closing lineup, particularly in the playoffs, I think that there's some warmth to that, because even Kenny has really leaned in on the JA with Evan Mobley when they're closing. That lineup was awesome last year, particularly in the clutch. So I do think that if that pairing works so well together that it gives them some kind of lineup versatility, I think that's a really, really encouraging thing, because I think both of them are really effective players, and I'm excited. As you said, we always talk about it as an either or. I really want to see kind of those minutes together, particularly when the team is staggering lineups.
Very, very fair. Do you want to give me our hot take?
Yeah,
this is our the fourth hottest that we've gone so far.
So, I'm a reasonable man sometimes. I listen to feedback, and we got a fair comment on our one of our recent YouTubes where I was talking about Evan Mobley as, a top 15 player next year, consensus top 15 player. And it's like, is that really that hot of a take? He was all NBA. I think it's going to be consensus that Evan Mobley is a top 10 player next season. I think when you look at the Ringer list, when you look at the ESPN list, I think Evan Mobley is going to be a top 10 player. I think he is going to be the Cavs' leading candidate when it comes to MVP voting and shares. I think may even finish higher on an All-NBA team than Donovan, even being the leading scorer. You started to see a little bit of that momentum last season. Nate Duncan, on his ballot had Evan higher. He had him, I think, 5th in his MVP voting. I think if Evan takes the type of step forward that we are hoping for, understanding that this guy is, the reigning defensive player of the year and one of the most impactful players on that end, I think it is going to become a consensus take that Evan Mobley is a top 10 player.
I like this. This is, I think this is your first dose of spice. And of course it comes with some healthy optimism.
Of course, right?
None of your spice is going to be negative. No acidic wings for you. I think this makes a lot of sense as a thing that would be really meaningful in terms of its outcome for the team. It's hard for me to say much more just because I feel like we've just beaten Evan needs to take more ownership of the offense. He needs to not be passive, can't disappear, usage can't go down, true usage can't go down, and if all that stuff happens, it's to your point about him, he's already the defensive player of the year. It's not like he has much
and second team All NBA, right?
It's not like he already was voted one of the top 10 guys in the NBA of this last season. So it's anything extra is gonna feel monumental at this point. It's
and also I feel like I've been a wuss sometimes with Evan Mobley because we've just always understood that big men take. I think big men always take a little longer to develop, and we've been reasonable with the expectations with him, right? He going into the rookie year, he's exceeded expectations year over year over year. I think in terms of what we talk about in the preseason, and maybe it is because we're a little protective, right? Maybe we are handling him with kid gloves to some extent because we understand the importance of, hey, until Evan Mobley makes that leap, we're not a true championship contender. So maybe as a fan, we're scared to say, oh, Evan's going to make that leap, or we're scared of that leap occurring because we're going to find out whether or not all the other pieces are actually good enough, right?
Yeah,
so I think
there's a little bit of can he get there? That does remain to be seen. And that's why this take is spicy, because we don't know if Evan's gonna ever be more than what he is on offense, because we're not in the rookie year part of Evan's journey. This is year 5, year 4. I can't remember.
Yeah, carry the one. I think a year 5.
Yeah. Point is, this is not rookie to sophomore year or sophomore to junior year. This is real. He's already very close, probably, to what he's gonna be. As a player,
probably. You're not going to see any.
He's not going to get twice as good, he's
not going to add something that has been completely unseen to this point.
Yeah, every percentile higher, it's like a crazy curve. The difference between
right?
Yeah, the difference between a 90th and a 95th percentile player, is probably the same difference between a 95th and a 96th percentile player. There is a compounding thing here, but he's not gonna just be, twice. None of his impact stats are going to increase by 100% anymore. That's just not how it works at this level of player. So it's
if it did, he'd be in GOAT debates. At that point.
How much more is there to mine is a real question. Now, I think both of us understand that the nuances of the game generally means that there is a lot more to mine. But that is the hardest, these are the hardest precious gems to get to. So I think it's a great hot take, and I'm gonna crank it up because I think mine's even hotter. Okay. And true to form for this podcast, mine's gonna be a little bit angsty, which is my hot take is that the Cavaliers have a defensive stopper problem.
Ooh. Okay.
And part of it. And it's easy just to say because they traded Isaac Okoro, who was by the metrics the best perimeter stopper on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they probably would have had one anyway because of their inability to rely on Isaac in the postseason. these last couple years. But you look at the contender list, going by title odds on ESPN Bet, Oklahoma City Thunder, they have Lou Dort. The Denver Nuggets, they're kind of in Cavs territory. Christian Brown's a good defender, but he's no Lou Dort. The Knicks have OG Anunoby. The Rockets have Amen Thompson. The Magic have Jalen Suggs. I don't know if the Cavs have any individual defender that can muck up a game plan like that on the perimeter. And so I wonder how they're going to handle the Jalen Brunson. Like, if they're in a conference finals against the Knicks and Brunson has 36 going into the fourth quarter, what do you do? You know? I don't know if this is, and when I say they have a problem, you don't get to solve every problem. You know?
No.
Like the Thunder have problems. So I'm not saying this is a fatal flaw, but I do think it is. If I'm looking up and down the roster, it's one thing where I go, who shuts the water off of the water? You know, if it's Trae Young in the second round, who shuts the water off? How do they do that? And I don't know if I have a great answer as it currently stands.
Do you feel this was previously a problem for the Cavs?
A little. Okay. I think like or at the very least, I watched what Dort did to Donovan in those two games against the Thunder in the regular season. I was like, oh man, I don't know if we have that often.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
because I was going to say you've kind of sold Isaac short in the past of his impact as a defender. So
I still think he was better than. I still think if Isaac were on the
he's
team,
better than any of the options we currently have.
I would still put him as the top. I just wouldn't put him in that Dort category.
Okay. I think that is fair. I just wanted to acknowledge,
good clarify.
In a roundabout way, you were giving Isaac some credit, and even though he's not on the Cavs, I still want to see him do well, and I still want to see you credit him from time to time. So I was going to grill you a little bit there. I think that this is a reasonable take. I think there's truth to it, right? Because I don't know who that stopper is going to be. Maybe you are going to have to rely on a Max Strus to guard down and put him on guards more frequently. Right now that you do have that length that you can kind of occupy the 3 and 4 spots with Hunter, with Wade, with Larry, maybe that means that Max is going to kind of be tasked with that. I do think it's noteworthy. You say we don't have an OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges.
I didn't say Mikal Bridges very much on purpose.
Okay, fair. we don't have him, but they did fully healthy perform worse defensively against the Pacers than we did.
I know.
Right? They banged up. So I agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily a fatal flaw, but I do think that it is potentially a flaw on this roster. It's part of why I'm curious about someone like Tyrese Proctor, right? That's coming in with a defensive reputation, with great length, right? And maybe he is going to be someone that's you can use in those spots, right? Which would go back to kind of your first take. This kind of ties into my bomb take here, Carter. My spiciest of my
spicy. Makes me to bomb town, Justin.
Someone from the Cavs 5 through 9 spots will get traded this season. So that is DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, Lonzo Ball, Sam, or Dean. I think we have so many guys that are deserving of minutes. We have interesting guys like a Tyrese Proctor, like a Jalen Tyson. And you're also in this reality of the second apron. And I think the Cavs may say, hey, we have kind of, the guys internally that are opening up some new possibilities. Maybe they do sign, a Malik Beasley, and that opens up different possibilities. And you can look at, okay, there's interest in free agency in Sam Merrill. Are we able to go out and maybe get a stopper? Maybe we can get somebody to address that need or that concern that you have. I think that they are going to do what they've done, in every transaction cycle, which is explore the options that are available to them. I just think that this is going to be a really good team. The role players are going to be showcased in a way that's going to open up some possibilities for them. So I don't think anyone from the top 4 of the team is going to be moved. Again, this is tying into most of those guys either being so important or on such valuable contracts that it's tough to move them in a 1-for-1 where you actually get better instead of worse. But I think someone else outside of the core is going to get moved at the trade deadline this season.
That's a spicy meatball.
It could even be Lonzo on an expiring, right? Like,
Yeah,
depending on where his health goes, right? Like, that would be the least spicy outcome, I think, of the bunch. But I do think that we are going to see a transaction.
I kind of was under the impression we wouldn't. I kind of feel like the roster we get is the roster we get, just because of all the constraints and challenges that come with being in the second apron. And, like, you just, like, they're not going to do a trade where they can't take on salary to get better. So, like, they'd have to really thread the needle. I think they'd have to be pursuing a very clear talent upgrade to do a deal. When, in my opinion, let me explain why, because I know what your take is going to be, which is that, hey, this second apron, if your 10th or 11th man is showing some stuff, then you might want to be prudent. Is that kind of where you were going to go?
No, I think they might pursue a specialist, right? Like, hey, like we have, let's say as an example, the Lonzo and Sam contracts that we can play with here, right? That there are a lot of role players underneath that. Let's go get a stopper. Let's get someone that's just, hellacious at the point of attack, that's got some good strength, that's got some good length, that makes less than them. So, we get a little bit of savings there, but we're addressing a need. We're addressing a need because we like what Tyrese is bringing as a movement shooter, or we're able to shift Max over to absorb more of those guard minutes because of the size that we have. Jalen Tyson has stepped up in a real way. So it's not even about the realities of the second apron. It's, hey, we've got guys occupying the skill sets that we know that we need to have within the rotation. Let's go address. Let's get someone that's maybe not a better player in a vacuum, but that brings something very specific to the table that we feel we're going to need in a playoff setting.
That's a very fair point. I don't know if I agree, just because things are so tight. I think that if you're going to make a move, and maybe even attach some draft capital to that move to grease the wheels, like, you have to really like what you're doing. Like, and I think that's only if you're going to chase a talent upgrade, and I just think those are going to be hard to come by to fit into these slots. So I like the spice, though I don't think I'm taking a bite of that particular wing. All right, I'm going to take us home with my bomb, my hottest take, and I think you're going to hate this, which is we'll know if this team is a real title contender within the first few months of the season.
Ooh.
Like, and the reason being is, if I see them soft switching everything, if I see them having the guards lead initiation, and like they look in the product looks pretty much the same as last year without any major variations, I'm going to be pretty dubious. Whereas if I see them, their turnover forcing rate go way up, if I see Evan's usage go way up in like a really meaningful way, not just holistically, but as you've mentioned, in the clutch, if we see these kinds of material changes, I'll go from like positive and excited about the year, and and because of the state of the East, expecting to have a very good shot at winning winning the East, to like, if those things change and I see them in the first couple months, I'm all the way in. And I think this team will be, I don't have them in the same tier as the Thunder right now. I will in 2 months, depending on what I see.
I think I disagree with this in two different directions, and agree with it in one. I agree that if like Evan Mobley's usage isn't where we want it to be, if you're not really seeing any changes in terms of the approach of using him, particularly if Darius misses time early in the season, that would concern the hell out of me. I think that would really, really concern me. I think even if we see everything you want to see, the concerns are still going to be there. It's going to be, okay, Evan's doing this now. Can he do it in the postseason? Can the guards stay healthy in the postseason? if they do stay healthy, are they able to execute consistently over 4 rounds like they're going to need to in order to be a title contender? So, like, if those are your questions, I don't think you're getting an answer in the regular season. And like, for me, I think they are a title contender, right? Like you know, and this is going to be a semantics thing in terms of how we define what a title contender is. But I think the types of questions that you have, I think you can get indicated. It's almost like in Summer League where you're not going to get an indication of whether or not someone's going to make it and be a good rotation player, but you can tell when they're not going to be. Like, you can tell when they like just can't hang at all in that setting. And okay, this is going to be a project. This guy's going to take a lot of time. I think we can find out, you know, from a negative standpoint that, hey, there's some real concerns here, and we're going to need to turn this around quick in the regular season here. Otherwise, hey, this is going to be something that we feel has a chance to bite them in the playoffs. I don't think you're going to get the answers that you want to have answered, but I can understand from your perspective where you're not, you know, you don't feel it in your gut. You're not puffing your chest out feeling like they are a title contender. I can see you getting those reassurances and feeling better. So I can understand your perspective while disagreeing with the point.
That's fair. That's fair, buddy. I think we got appropriately spicy in this one. I did want to shout out just a couple ones from the chat.
Oh, that's fun.
We had did that message get deleted? Oh, well, I believe someone said that their take was that one of their first spicy takes was that CPJ will replace Ty Jerome's minutes with little drop off. I don't agree with that. I don't either. I don't think Craig's in the rotation. One of my takes
true that someone else is going to take that role. I just don't really kind of have him on my short list.
Yeah, it's funny. I think from a skill set perspective, he's kind of in that Tyson camp where he's shown some of those things that you go, oh, well, he probably could. I mean, he's
a combo guard like Ty, right?
And he is almost certainly the best like pick and roll runner of the group, you know, in terms of getting into the teeth of the defense. I just don't know if he's going to get the opportunity. And then another one that I wanted to throw out, Drew, is scorching nuclear fiery take is that Naquan Tomlin becomes rotational.
Oh, that's fun. That would be a really, really fun outcome. I like that you were mentioning a deleted take because I was getting a little suspicious that you were just trying to get a 6th take in here. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, trust me. Someone else said that.
Yeah, someone did. No. I just got retracted from the YouTube chat. I was getting ready to shout them all out. I should have just done it at the time.
I like those. You know, the Naquan Tomlin one would be a lot of fun because the Tomlin one, again, we're at this point where if any of these things come to fruition, there's so many dominoes, right? Like if another front court player like a Naquan Tomlin steps forward, that can shift everybody down in the rotation. Suddenly they can play bigger, right? Maybe that helps facilitate a trade deadline move where you're moving on from like a Alonzo, Sam, or even Dean to target a specific skill set. And I think, again, one of the keys to that take is I don't think it has to be a talent upgrade. I think you can get worse because you feel like the player you're moving on from can be replaced basically from someone internally, and we're just going to attack a skill set. We're just going to bring something to the team that we don't already have. So really, really curious to see which of these end up coming to fruition. I like those suggestions from the chat, and I like everyone hanging out with us on YouTube. We really, really do appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chasedown's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.